Welcome to the Full-Time FBA Show. In each episode, it's our goal to help you turn part-time hours into a full-time income selling almost anything on Amazon. And now, your hosts of the show, Stephen and Rebecca Smotherman.
Hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. We're on episode number 279, and today we're talking about what's working and what's not for wholesale in 2025. I'm going to welcome to the show Stephen, and the first thing I want to ask you, Stephen, is why is it that if January was a year long, February is already halfway over?
I know, right? I mean, that's just...
it's crazy how this year's going so far. But we're going to be talking about wholesale in 2025. We want to bring you what's latest and greatest in the Amazon world. And so we're going to be getting into that on today's episode.
Let's do it.
We're always excited to get into talking about wholesale, especially excited about talking about wholesale in 2025 today. But before we do, we want to make sure you're signed up to get the Full-Time FBA newsletter. It goes out every week with training for your Amazon reselling business, links to podcasts, articles, workshops, all the good stuff.
Coupon codes.
So make sure you're signed up at fulltimefba.com/subscribe. And speaking about news about upcoming trainings, make sure you listen all the way to the end of this episode for news about our latest free workshop. Today, we're talking about what's working and what's not in 2025 for wholesale sourcing for your Amazon business. We've been covering the topic of wholesale here at Full-Time FBA for several years, but we always want to make sure we provide you with the most up-to-date information so that you can make the best choices for your Amazon business today. I'm going to make an executive decision here, Stephen, and say that I want to get the bad news out of the way first. So let's talk about what's not working right now when you're trying to source wholesale inventory to sell on Amazon.
Yeah, I like that idea. Let's get the negative over and done with. So the first thing I want to mention is that wholesale sourcing is getting harder for sellers who are looking for a simple and easy path.
Hasn't that always been the case, though?
Well, I mean, yeah, basically. But right now, I think it's even harder than before. Now, I don't mean that it's too hard to be accomplished, but I do mean it's hard if you're looking for an easy buck. The process of finding profitable inventory, contacting suppliers, negotiating about opening an account, all of that takes time. It takes effort, it takes organization, and a systematic approach if you want to do it well. So I would summarize it by saying that making a half-hearted attempt at contacting a few companies here and there without really putting in the effort to craft your message, to contact people the right way, that's just not working in 2025. A few years back, you might have been able to get away with that and find some decent wholesale accounts, but not now. That kind of approach is just a waste of your time and effort.
Agreed. And if you aren't going to approach the wholesale side of your Amazon sourcing with some thought and effort, you're just not going to get anywhere in 2025. So I would add to that in 2025, a wholesale strategy that isn't working is buying from websites that offer wholesale inventory for sale without any form of barrier to entry to get an account or make purchases. I'm talking about wholesale websites that are more or less functioning as distributors for brands, and you don't need to work at it to get an account. All you do is create a username and a password. Maybe you enter your credit card info and you're good to go. Maybe you're asked to go so far as to upload your reseller certificate, but that's the biggest extra step. No contact with a human, no interaction explaining who you are and why you should get an account. And the reason I say this isn't working is that you can definitely buy from these types of websites and every once in a while find a product that's profitable on Amazon for a while. Mm-hmm. But when there's no barrier to entry, no extra steps to get an account or to place orders, everybody and their grandma signs up for those accounts. No offense to grandmas. They sign up for those accounts, they buy inventory, and suddenly those products flood Amazon. And if the demand for those products isn't crazy good, that influx of sellers means the prices are going to tank. So when I say this isn't working in 2025, what I mean is that it's not profitable. You can do it, but it's a waste of time and money.
Right. And along the same lines, the same goes for opening accounts with companies that are an easy yes. It's awesome to get a yes, but if it's so easy, that's probably not a good idea. Even if you have to send an email and request an account rather than just signing up on a website, if it's a super easy process to get approved, then you should be concerned that the account is not going to be worth it. Not necessarily 100% of the time, but the majority of the time.
Agreed. Okay, so if those are the main things that aren't working right now, let's pivot and talk about what is working. And we'll cover the most obvious points first, basically the opposite of what we just said isn't working.
Yeah, okay, I'll take the first one. If taking a haphazard approach to just kind of applying for an easy account here and there isn't working, and I mean that isn't making you any profits on Amazon, then the opposite of that is taking the time and effort to setting up your business the right way, to get wholesale accounts, to be professional and show professionalism, to have a system in place where you are organized and methodical in how you handle your leads, to have a system in place for making contacts, to have a process for continually scouting for potential new inventory, to make your contacts with the companies after doing solid research, finding the right person to talk to, having a well-crafted message to send. Part of what I mean here is that you should have a professional email address and website, but also you should be professional in how you treat your time. This is a mindset, and we love talking about mindset on this podcast, but this is a mindset that you need to be aware of. If you want your business to make some solid profits from wholesale sourcing, then you need to treat all of your time working on your business as important and intentional and laser focused. No wasting time on shiny object syndrome, no giving yourself busy work rather than zeroing in on what are the actions today that will actually lead to making money selling wholesale inventory on Amazon. You have to spend time doing the research on products, making the contacts, and acting like the professional that you are. Or better yet, get to a point as quickly as possible where you can hire someone and train someone to do that research and contacts for you.
Absolutely. I know I personally have struggled in the past with basically just spending time farting around, acting like I was working at wholesale sourcing, but not really getting anywhere. And it was because I wasn't using a systematic approach. For me, the real magic didn't happen until I hired my VA. She is ruthless about putting systems and processes in place, and she really keeps me in line. Okay, the next point I want to make about what's working in 2025 is something we referenced last week in episode 278, and that's doing the hard work of winning wholesale accounts after you get an initial no from the brand. So you reach out with your professional email, you've got your well-crafted message, and you hear back from them, nope, nuh-uh, no account for you. Either we don't sell on Amazon or we don't want any more e-commerce sellers, whatever. That's what they say back to you. And that is the point where you can begin to use your skills to show them why working with you would be a win-win situation. It takes way more effort than just signing up for an online account, but it's where the gold is in terms of reselling on Amazon. It's that barrier to entry. Any barrier to entry makes it harder for the average Joe to sell the item, and this particular barrier to entry is the best one of all. It's going to eliminate 99% of your potential competition for selling that item on Amazon.
Right. When it all comes down to is relationship. In 2025, more than ever, you have to establish a relationship of sorts with the companies you source from. I don't mean you need to buy them dinner or an engagement ring. I mean, it's going to take actual interaction. Talking like a human, not a bot. Possibly even picking up the telephone and having a conversation. Those kinds of things really set you apart in today's Amazon environment. And what it takes to make profits through wholesale sourcing, those kind of things really set you apart in today's Amazon environment. And it's what it takes to make profits through wholesale sourcing. Retail arbitrage and online arbitrage, they're both very transactional forms of sourcing. You just buy an item the same way you would if you were buying it for your own household, right at the cash register. But it's absolutely necessary to embrace the human component of interactions if you want to succeed at wholesale today.
Adding to that point, I would say that another thing you absolutely must know and embrace in 2025 is following the brand's wishes for their products to a T. If you want a brand to trust you or continue trusting you to represent them as a third-party seller of their items on Amazon, you have to listen to them when they have wishes for how they want their inventory handled. This could mean several things, but the number one way you must support them in handling their brand is following their MAP policy. MAP is minimum advertised price, and the quickest way to show a brand that you're only in it for yourself, you don't care about the image that the brand, are presenting to the world, is to break their MAP. Now, some people sign a MAP policy knowing that they don't intend to keep it. And honestly, that's a huge indication, if you have that mindset, that you aren't really ready to handle the kind of professionalism in business that it takes to make the biggest profits in wholesale on Amazon. If you do that, you're showing brands you don't care, and you'll lose your accounts and a lot of money. You have to make decisions based on what supports the brand, not just yourself.
And one last thing we want to make sure that you're doing to be successful at wholesale sourcing in 2025. Not only do you need to act with professionalism and nurture those human interactions at the companies where you're sourcing, but you need to build up a portfolio of accounts and keep track of who can be a possible good reference for you for one of those brands that you work with. Nothing speaks better of you being a great customer to work with than presenting a potential supplier with a list of references. This is going to take time because obviously you're not going to get a bunch of references right off the bat if you're just getting started. But if you're patient and you keep at it, you can keep up with the professionalism that we've been discussing. You'll be able to have references that you can offer as proof as why a company should work with you as an Amazon seller.
Well, this has been a lot, I know, and hopefully you've been able to see it as a pep talk, not a discouragement from doing the hard work. We don't ever want to just pump you up with meaningless nonsense and say, you can do it, you're the best ever.
Awesome. We love you.
I mean, you are awesome.
Yes.
We do love you. But we want to be honest with you about the hard work that's involved. We say it over and over again. Selling on Amazon is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a get-rich-easy scheme, but it can be a get-rich-slowly plan if you put the right practices into place in your business.
And we want to offer you an opportunity to join us for a free wholesale-focused workshop where we will do just that, to help you learn what it takes to do wholesale sourcing the right way for Amazon in 2025. Registration is now open for the workshop that starts February 24th, and you can sign up fulltimefba.com/wholesale workshop. And I really want to get you signed up right now. So we're at the end. So we're going to stop this podcast. You can go to fulltimefba.com/wholesale workshop and sign up. The workshop could be the beginning of a new phase of business for you, as it has been for so many Amazon sellers. Pivoting into wholesale sourcing can really be what it takes to break the profits wide open for you. So you don't want to miss out on this free training. So go to fulltimefba.com/wholesale workshop, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the 24th when the training begins.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. As a reminder, the show notes and all of the links we mentioned can be found at fulltimefba.com/279, because this is episode number 279.
And next week on the show, we're going to be talking about wholesale sourcing and your path to a full-time income. And we'll do that next week on the Full-Time FBA Show.
That's all for this episode of the Full-Time FBA Show. So head over to fulltimefba.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes and links from this episode. While you're there, subscribe to our newsletter, where you'll get several free downloads of our popular and helpful Amazon FBA resources. Now, take action on what you've learned today, so you can find success at turning part-time hours into a full-time income with Amazon FBA.